Hello my crafty friends, it's Marie from Marie's Vermont Creations, and today we're going to make this watercolor card using the Sketched Flowers stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and we're also going to be using some distress inks for some smooshing. I am right now stamping the Happiest of Birthdays to You sentiment with intense black ink from Simon Says Stamp onto a piece of Canson cold press watercolor paper, which is 5 1/4 by 4. I cut that down to that size, and I'm stamping first because the first time I did this, I tried to use some Post-it tape and my ink bled through underneath, so I thought I'd try to stamp it. I did hit it with my heat tool, and now I'm taking some blue painter's tape to cover up the sentiment so I can have that section stay clean. So I'm making sure to press that down really well. Like I said, the Post-it tape that I had didn't keep the liquid out from underneath it the first time I tried this, so I'm pressing this down really well to make sure that it's adhered. You do have to lift it very carefully when you're done so that you don't tear your paper. So then what I'm going to do is take the mat that came with my Tonic Studios glass media mat, and I'm going to be smushing down seedless preserves, picked raspberry, and salty ocean distress inks. I'm just putting them randomly all over, and I'm hitting that with my distress sprayer, which is full of water, and I'm just going to press the paper down over both ends of it multiple times, and in between I'm going to hit it with my heat tool to dry it, because with distress inks you can kind of layer them on top of each other. I'm just wiping up some pooling there, so I'm going to smush a little more, and then we're going to dry it because it was getting too much purple. So I'm going to wipe down the mat, give it a heat with my heat tool to dry it in between, and then I'm going to add some of just the salty ocean to the pad so that gets more of an intense color. That's the one I want to draw out the picked raspberry and the salty ocean instead of just the purple, so I'm going to do them separate. So I'm spraying that with just some water, and again I'm going to smush it on there randomly, and then I will dry it again and do it again with the blue, just because I wanted to intensify that color some. So we're hitting with our heat tool to try to dry in between, and it does unfortunately warp the paper, but I have a fix for that at the end. So we're going to dry it and hit it again with salty ocean that's left on the mat, and that gives you more of a droplet effect, which looks like water droplets all over. It actually is it looks good. If you were to drop clean water on this, it will wick away when you hit it with a towel or a paper towel. It would pick up where that color was, where the water was sitting on it. So that's one of the cool features of distressing, so you could do that as well. So we're drying it again. And then I'm going to wipe down the mat and put down the picked raspberry color to intensify that as well. That's the one I seem to be missing. I have all of the other colors, prominent, but I wanted that pink to show up as well. So I'm going to smush that down. And you can do this with any color. You can do it with the Distress Oxides. It works as well. And I'm just going to spray it with some water to beat it up a little bit, and then press my paper into it again all over. And it gives me some nice splatters all over the place. So I have sped this up a little bit. I'm just swirling it around and patting it in. Then we're going to give it one final hit with the heat tool to make sure that it's completely dry, because if you try to remove the tape while it's still wet, you're more likely to tear your paper. So we're just going to give it a heat with the heat tool and make sure that it's good and dry before we go removing the tape. And you have to, once you start, just use slow and even pressure to make sure that it doesn't tear the paper. And thankfully I made sure to get it off in one shot, and there was no ink underneath it. So we're going to reveal that in just a moment. One more head of the heat tool. Like I said, I want to make sure it was good and dry. And there was one spot at the bottom that it was just pooling and pooling, so I hit it with my towel just to sop up some of that. And so now revealing the clean space underneath where the sentiment is, which revealing it upside down, but that's all right. We'll flip it over in a second so you can see how it turned out. So there it is. That's pretty much our card front. You can do this with any color combination, any sentiment in the center. And so, like I said, it very much warps the paper. So I am going to take some really big 3M foam tape and just cover the back with it. So that helps to straighten it out a little bit. If you didn't want to use foam tape, you could take it and run it through the plates of your die cutting machine to try to flatten it out a little bit. When you run it through the rollers, that sometimes will straighten that out for you. So just removing the backing to the foam tape and going to adhere it to a card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11, which is scored at 5 1/2. So I'm just trying to get that on straight. I start to adhere it down. It gets a little crooked, so I pull it up without tearing everything and then just realign that bottom corner to get that where I want it to be. And then I don't know, I clearly didn't clean my mat good enough, so I have this splotch of color. So I just took some clean water and I am using a different paintbrush to wet that area because it will reactivate that paint or the distress ink, and so then you can lighten it up. So I'm going to do it again, spray down some more water, and then brush over the area and then wipe it with my towel. After I had the card completely dry, I did take my mono sand eraser to get rid of the remaining little area of color that was there. And in the finished card, you can't tell that I had that little boo-boo there. So now we're going to take some of the Doodlebug hearts stickers that I received in a Simon Says stamp kit at one point, and we're just going to put 3 little pink hearts scattered around in the sentiment area. I originally thought before I used the sand eraser that I would use one of the pink hearts to cover up the area that had the color on it, but then I realized it was just right here. It's distracting and actually pulls your eye right to where the area is, so I decided to pull that back up and move it and put it closer. And then I put them down in 3s because that tends to be easier for your eyes if they draw an odd number. So we're going to put those down, and that is going to be the finished card for today. I hope you liked today's project. You can feel free to hop on over to my blog at www.mariesvermontcreations.home.blog. You can visit me there or find me on Facebook. I hope you have a great day.